Hello, welcome to the Future of Cybersecurity Virtual Summit. My name is Erdal Ozkaya, and today I'm going to present about cybersecurity and the changes during COVID. I work at Standard Chartered Bank as regional CISO. I got PhD in the field. As you can see in my background, I wrote many books. You can always Google me, add me at LinkedIn, or follow me at Twitter. Let's go straight to the topic. Before we go to the topic, anybody who tweets about this session and tags the virtual conference as well as myself in Twitter is going to draw to win 5 of my latest books based on their choice. Our world is changing. I'm pretty sure everybody is aware of it now. The COVID-19 changed everything so fast that probably nobody could imagine. Beside that, of course, the business is closing down, online sales going up, the cyber attacks are increasing, the natural events are causing different types of threats, and as a result, the economy, the global economy is also getting affected. I'm pretty sure we all heard about the new normal. So we have to get used until we find the cure against this COVID-19. So what is the problem? What did COVID-19 brought to us? Of course, one of the biggest problems, as usual, is cybersecurity. And I can only talk about cybersecurity anyway. So way before COVID, we used to have cyber attacks. Even today, during COVID, and hopefully soon after COVID, probably we're going to have still cyber attacks. One of the biggest things that takes my attention or everybody's attention is, and I'm pretty sure you heard it multiple times, that the attackers keep evolving. I love this caricature here. You can see a teenager with his laptop and an organization, let's assume it's an organization, with traditional defense mechanism. Unfortunately, they don't have the right defense mechanism, right? Why? Let's talk about it. Let's talk what changed in COVID. As I said a few minutes ago, the frequency and impact of cybersecurity attacks are increasing. Hackers always find a different way to attack. So, one of the biggest changes which happened during COVID was companies of all sizes across all industries have been forced to find ways to remain productive, keep the business growing while working from home. I'm pretty sure you all saw this beautiful caricature which was shared at LinkedIn and various social media channels that who forced your digital transformation? Was it your CEO, CISO, CIO, or COVID-19? And in that caricature, the answer was COVID-19. But this brought lots of risk as all this happened most probably overnight. Most of us, IT professionals, IT executive leaderships, were unprepared to this. Users who were sitting at home, they were using corporate networks, which they had physical as well as cybersecurity in place, being forced to sit at home and work from a public network or from their home networks. If they had their own laptops, corporate laptops, it was a bit easier, but not everybody had a laptop. And as a result, some of them had to use their home computers to connect to virtual networks. This brought lots of issues. One of the biggest issues was, of course, you as CISO, you as cybersecurity professional, you as CIO had to manage computers that you didn't even touch before. You had to ensure they were secure. It's like when you go today to a mall, they come and they measure your temperature. If you want to fly, you have to get COVID-19 negative test result before you even can be accepted in a flight and so on. But what was the solution for getting a BIOD device which did not been pre-scanned before to your network. Of course, while all this happens, attackers didn't sit down and waited. They have ramped up phishing. That was the easiest attack back, and it's still all what they had to do is send an email. Ransomware. I'm going to talk about ransomware shortly. Business email compromising attacks. I'm pretty sure you heard about the previous exchange attacks, which people still use, the older exchange versions, the DLL shells, which was dropped and as a result hacked. Besides that, while people started to work remotely, they had to use some common protocols such as Remote Desktop Protocol, RDP, to connect their corporate networks. And if you were not using a VPN, if you didn't have any encryption, or never used strong passwords, or you're still using the default protocol, which is 3389, and you are not using network level authentication, you would never be able to stop these kinds of attacks, right? Besides that, this is a great chart which shows the COVID-19 related domains. Earlier in 2020, there was really none. And if you look towards end of January, none is not correct. Probably there were really very little domains, but it jumped within the 2-month time frame from less than 100, to 100, close to 100,000 COVID-related domains. And as you can guess, most of those were fake or created by attackers. And one of the biggest attack vector or money chewing was the evolution of ransomware. What I'm pretty sure you all know what ransomware is. It's like getting kidnapped, right? Someone is kidnapping you, calling your family, asking for money, otherwise they're gonna kill the person who was kidnapped. I'm pretty sure you watched many Hollywood movies which covers this theme. So ransomware is the computer version. What happens is hackers somehow reach out to your computer, they encrypt it, or these days they steal the data and ask for ransom. They lock your computer, they ask for Bitcoin payment, or they threaten you with the data they steal and asking you to pay money, otherwise you're gonna get fined. When we look at ransomware, as I said, it's these days very popular, but ransomware is actually not brand new. The first ransomware attack happened in early 1980s, where the hackers or malicious actors used floppy disks to install malware on unsuspected victims in a healthcare industry. When we look today, unfortunately, nothing much has changed. If you remember the IHS attack in England just last year, so in 30, 40 years, unfortunately, we didn't learn much. Again, what brought our attention as cybersecurity professionals back to ransomware? In 2016, the WannaCry attack. I'm pretty sure you heard the story. Apparently, NSA was using the Eternal Blue vulnerability at Microsoft systems to spy on whoever they wanted. What happened is, what happened is after that, you heard many others such as NotPetya, Bad Rabbit, Robin Hood, and today you can see Sodin or Kibi ransomware, for example, which is really, really hard to detect. What it does is, it's burrowed deep into a system to violate the privileges by planting itself to the CPU architecture. So, which operating system is going to detect that? Or if you detect it, how are you going to remove that? So what happened is, how it's happened is, back to WannaCry. Back then I used to work at Microsoft and I used to get these questions out, oh, this is your fault. I'm like, yes, okay. Software is made by humans. And every human, unfortunately, somehow is going to do some mistakes, or even if you don't do a mistake, there's going to be some bugs where hackers can exploit it. And this is what happened. But if you look again at WannaCry, the first WannaCry attack happened nearly after 2 months when Microsoft patched Eternal Blue vulnerability. I repeat, not 2 hours, not 2 days, not 20 days, exactly 2 months later. Why? Because people did not patch their computers. Why? People didn't have proper tested backups. Why? They didn't have any structured infrastructure. Why? They never updated their computers. Why? They never had defense in-depth strategy, or what we call the cyber hygiene basics. They were sharing passwords, they were using weak passwords, they were connecting from a laptop which connects to the data center and to the internet without having anything in between, without using, let's say, privileged access workstation, without taking care of the basics and having the least privilege. So this is the ransomware. Is this the only thing which changed during COVID? Of course not. As I said, there is many different attack types happening, and the point of entry is still or mainly emails. This was a very famous attack entry, which everything came in Japanese. You had to download the font from the given link. Unfortunately, the link had some viruses. Social engineering, it still didn't change. You receive the mail instruct you to enable the ActiveX, remember ActiveX, or enable the content, the editing content, the macros. As a result, you get hacked. So that's why I love this caricature as well. Please look at it. Let's imagine I press the button and I take you to 2050. Now we are in 2050. You get the latest technology of 2050, press the button and come back to 2020. We are in August 2020 again. So let's implement this latest technology. Let's have your most secure encryption, your firewalls, your software, and at the end, in the opposite end, you're gonna have a human who misconfigures, a human who doesn't take care of the basics. Who will win? The hacker or you, the defender? I think the answer is obvious, right? So what else is happening? You notice there is lots of password spray attacks or brute force attacks, as I mentioned a few seconds ago with RDPs, for example. Or if you remember the Bat Rabbit attack, where people were reusing the passwords. A few minutes ago, you noticed, like in my social engineering book, Troy Hunt, he has a great website. Please go to haveibeenpwned.com and try to see if try to subscribe and see if somehow your email address has been compromised. Why? Let me explain you how it works. You sign up to a website with your email. You use a password, whatever password it is. And unfortunately, you use the same email, or fortunately, you use the same email to connect to many other websites. Sometimes you reuse the password, or your end users reusing it. As a result, if that website gets hacked, the email address and the password that you reuse can be used in a password spray attack. And as you can read in the slide, unfortunately, this is very common. What else? As I said, the privilege and software that you don't need. Most of the attacks still happen by using software which is not up to date. Do you know that you could be 92% more secure if you were not using your admin privileges in your laptop? Or do you know that that all exploit vulnerabilities could be, could be stopped if you were just reading the CVEs which have been published. What happens is most of the times hackers, if you think hackers, they sit down and they write all the 0 days, trust me, this is not so easy. I work at Secunia, used to be at least one of the best security vulnerability research organization, then Microsoft. Now I work in a bank. And it's like honesty. COVID-19 is out there. All what you have to do is wear a mask, take care of your personal hygiene, use hand sanitizers like this one, use social distancing, and try not to go out unless you have to. This will help you to be much more secure than getting infected by COVID-19. Same thing applies to cybersecurity. If you follow the basics, you should be fine. Here's a great example how hacking attempts happens. Hackers, they wait, they find out their targets, they use numerous enumeration methods. Once they target, they draft their email, and this is an email which was targeted to a diplomat in Middle East. As you can see in the email, that diplomat was also part of NATO. They received an email. Unfortunately, the diplomat clicked in the link. That link had a 0-day flash 0-day, sorry. That diplomat was converted to a fake website. He forced to enter his username and passwords, then rediverted to the real website. What happened is, here's the details. Unknown URL report, then the malware, which was run.exe, then the alert was there, the file name was observed.ly. Anyway, at the end, there was a hack tool Win32 malware used to launch this attack. So let's go out to the basics again. The attack could be through phishing, could be through a browser or document exploit, as I given examples, and then pass the hash. Once hackers somehow come in, I'm pretty sure you heard about Mimikatz. It's a free tool where hackers can jump between workstations, computers, vertically, or in different ways to explore the network and unfortunately hack the network. The trick, the tool, the software could be involved, but it always comes back to this tree. You land on an exploit page, the exploit runs, you'll be directed to a legitimate page if it's a phishing attack. So how can you defend? Right? That's what you want to know as well. First of all, I would highly recommend you to start thinking like a hacker. And we have to aggressively out-innovate the attackers. To do so, you have to know what is your business. I mean, today, a CISO is not a guru in cybersecurity anymore. A CISO is who understands cybersecurity as well as business and can combine these two outcomes, and if necessary, can present cybersecurity to a board, maybe who doesn't understand cybersecurity at all, as a piece of cake, or be able to sit with a reverse engineer and understand how reverse engineering works. I'm not saying each CISO has to be a reverse engineer, please don't get me wrong, but understanding the steps will make things much easier. So as your business is transforming, you have to transform your security with it. As Senchu said, I don't know if you heard about Senchu. Senchu wrote a book nearly 500 years before Jesus Christ. He said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, You need not to fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory you gain, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy or yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So, you have to know your attack vectors. You have to know your defense vectors. You have to know the attacking ground. In other words, you have to think like a hacker. Don't forget, hackers, they're patient. In the ransomware attack which I gave earlier as example, you know, all these companies, Garvin, JDW, or all these big names. Don't do you think they were hacked in one day? No. What happened is the hackers find a way. They went into the network. They took their time. They looked what they can explore. So they're determined. And they honestly don't care. They're insensitive. I'm pretty sure you all remember the big bushfires in Australia in early 2020. What happened is somehow bushfire happened, and this happens every year in Australia, but this time this could not be controlled. The bushfire went out of control, and millions of animals and millions of hectares of green area was burned. As a result, people came together, they started to collect donations, they created websites, but hackers didn't care. They hacked those websites because they were vulnerable, they were managed with easy passwords. So don't expect to think, oh, I got COVID-19, the hacker's going to be nice to me. No, unfortunately not. Hackers, they love to take risks because that's their job, right? If they get caught, they know they're going to be in jail. An example, I'm pretty sure you all heard what happened to Twitter just in August 2020. A 17 years old young boy was able to hack Twitter and tweet from Bill Gates' account, from Apple CEO's account, Tim Cook, from many other accounts, and asking for Bitcoin. And unfortunately, he was able to collect 100,000 US dollars in Bitcoins. Yes, he was caught after. Yes, he's at the moment in jail, but he took the risk. If they're not careful, they will be end up in jail. If they're careful, what's going to happen? Like Larry's at the moment, the head of criminal organization is still outside. They're also deviant. So you have to think like a hacker. As I said, the hacker or a smart hacker or a sophisticated attacker will only choose avenues that can exploit successfully. They look at the weakest link and, of course, the easiest way to attack. As I said, most of the attacks leverage known vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, human errors. I know I'm repeating myself. I'm repeating myself for so many years. You can watch my talk at Microsoft Ignite TechEd 2008 in Australia or in US or in Europe. I was talking about the same thing. Today, after so many years, I'm still talking about the same thing. Please, 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 at least do the basics. Make the hacker's job harder. Don't forget, noise is an attacker's best friend. And the attackers usually become extremely adept on using it. I'm pretty sure you all use Kali Linux. And in early days, Kali Linux, there was a beautiful saying under the Kali logo. Says, the more quiet you are, the more you can hear. So what the attackers do, they use the opposite, right? They create the noise so you can hear less. And, attackers are usually good to identify assumptions. They know if Microsoft, Cisco, you name it, any company release a patch, you're not going to install it soon. I know, I for sure know. That patch can break your computer. That patch can create some issues. But if you don't, which one is better? You should calculate it yourself. patch the computer, maybe have that of blue screen, then fix this issue and continue to work, or don't patch your computer and get hacked, and all your information, all your customer data or whatsoever is in the internet and dark web for sale. I still prefer the dead of blue screen. Of course, for that, as I mentioned, have your backups, have your proper strategy, and so on. So, of course, there are some differences between you and hackers as well. But let's talk about the common stuff. If you think hackers have different operating system, you're wrong. They use similar technology. They have goals like you. We all work to have a better future. They work, they steal, they attack, I guess, for better future for themselves, unless they are nation state attackers, where they attack for destroying. As we have a budget, I'm pretty sure most of the hackers have a budget as well. Some of the hackers, they use stolen credit card details, where can have a bit more budget than yourself, but it's still limited on how they can spend. Today, it's very common to see hackers in organizational structure, saying that most of the hackers, they have similar skills as yours. You use it for defending, they use it for attacking. Or if you're a red team, of course, you use it in a good way to attacking. End of the day, both of you perform a job. Some of them enjoy it and some of them don't. So what is the difference between you and the hacker? The attacker has only one way to get in. Now, he has to find only one way to get in, while the defender has to defend everything. For example, you work in a Fortune company with 100,000 employees, with God knows how many systems, mobile devices, where the hacker has to find only one. Saying that, the attacker must get everything right to be able to hack you, while you as defender has to detect one part of the attack. Yes, I mentioned early in the slides that things are getting more sophisticated, but not in every attack. So if you practice thinking like an attacker, then you should be more secure. I'm not saying go buy my books and read them all or read it all on the internet. All what I'm asking you is, please start to think outside of the box. So have a glasses which you can put. Think about, all right, for every system that you interact, that you are responsible, think about what it means for it to be secure, and try to find different ways how it could be exploited by an attacker. If you're still using Windows XP, or if you're using Windows 10, which is not supported, let's say the earlier versions, then you are not doing this job well. It is important to build a long-term plan for cybersecurity. You have to have a cybersecurity strategy. That's why we have 2 books about it, myself. You have to have a long-term plan for security investment. Please, please, please. Having lots of security products doesn't make you more secure. Invest in your talents. Have a detailed plan that outlines security software and hardware objectives. Don't forget, every hardware has some sort of firmware inside which manages the hardware, and sometimes you have to update that as well. And please be ready. It's not about if it's going to happen. It's about when the attack will happen. There's 2 types of organizations, says James Comey, the ex-FBI director. One, the ones they know they've been hacked. 2, the ones they don't. What does a cyber strategy mean? A cyber strategy is basically a plan for managing your organizational security risk according to your defined risk tolerance. This can be different for every organization, every business, depending on the objectives and the goals. You should know what your current state is. You should have a proper framework. NIST is usually a good one. You should know your vision. As I mentioned earlier, you should have a proper roadmap. You should be able to mobilize your power and implement everything in that driven framework timeline. As long as you have a strategy which is to be secure as necessary, you're fine. Don't forget, cybersecurity strategy is not being secure as possible. I repeat, it's all about to be secure as necessary. As again, Chen Chu said in his book, strategy without a tactic is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without a strategy is the noise before defeat. I repeat, having a proper cyber strategy is important. Know your key challenges. Have a proper roadmap. Coordinate actions. Continue monitoring the changes and the adaptation. And more importantly, always be ready for a cyber attack. How can you be ready to a cyber attack? First of all, you should have a lesson learned. What I hope you will have your own red teaming, blue teaming. I hope you will have a cyber partner which can help you to manage things that you can't do. Microsoft has the Dart team. Komodo has a perfect SOC solution. Kaspersky has red teaming solutions. You can find your own vendor based on you, based on what you want to. You must balance your data, identity, and device health. If you break one of the legs, unfortunately, things will collapse. Have a incident response plan, a data breach plan. How? As I said, PDCA, plan, do, check, act. This is not something which I invented. It's in ISO 27001. Remember the framework? And let go of your ego. This is the other thing which I see. I meet really great cybersecurity professionals. Some great CISOs, they have big names in the market. But they think they're so good. Think about myself, all right? I have all these books. I got PhD. I speak in conferences. I won many awards. If I act as I'm the king of cybersecurity, I know I'm going to get slapped in my face soon. Unfortunately, there are many people in the today, they act and they cannot let go of their egos. As I said, have a lesson learned plan. Find out what went wrong. Everybody will get hacked, can be hacked. Try to eliminate the problem. And as I mentioned earlier, invest in training. Don't forget, it's not about you being the CISO or, my manager group CISO, or think about Coca-Cola, Microsoft CISO, or Komodo CISO, or, you name it. It's about giving the mentality of strategically security thinking to everybody in the organization from A to Z, plus the contractors, the vendors. Know what you're sharing with your vendor, with your contractor, because sometimes not you, but the vendor can get hacked. You want an example? Remember my first slide, hacked? Let's say your organization was never hacked, but you were using Adobe, or you were using Apple, or you were using Microsoft, or you were using, all those companies were hacked before. Very recently, just this month in August 2020, Sense, which is an industry leader in cybersecurity training, were hacked. You know how? Via phishing. There was nothing wrong with that. But they did one thing great. They responded well, they did not deny, and they shared their lesson learned without asking people to go to their cybersecurity classes. EC Council, the past was hacked as well, similar way. can happen. But have your incident response data breach plan. Know how to communicate, test, and as I said, give your employees training for basics of digital security. Enforce multi-factor authentication. Use strong passwords. Keep your software up to date. Ensure your employees are aware of the dangers. Please have backup. Do you remember NotPetya? I mean, the NotPetya was similar ransom, different kind of ransom attack, but the difference was is the attackers, they didn't ask for ransom. It was a destructive attack. They destroyed everything. And that organizations, they had some virtual storage area without offline backup. But as long as the hacker was able to destroy everything, they were able also to destroy the virtual connections to the backups. Sometimes having the old offline backup is the right solution. And I'm not saying go back up your tons of petabytes of or nanobytes of data. At least ensure your critical data has been backed up. And try to not have security built in. Try to build it in. Try to give the mentality of CISO to everybody. As I said, having MFAs, multi-factor authentication, regular updates, increased awareness, monitoring devices and systems, as well as system access, will make the hacker's job harder. So when we say COVID, COVID brought many interesting things which we never thought about it earlier. COVID forced us to work from home. Us working from home, we were unprepared. We had to change the infrastructure rapidly. Yes, you might have VPN for your laptop users, but the bandwidth was not enough. Yes, you might didn't have any laptops. You asked BYOD to be implemented in one day, but that was not that easy. You had to get licensing while the vendor was also in lockdown mode. Don't forget. After that, hackers find different ways. We talked a little bit about ransomware, about remote, about phishing emails, about brute force attacks. I tried to give you some tips. At the end, the most important thing, what I am going to tell for future of security virtual conference is, you are the future. Your stuff is the future. Together, you are better, and you can make only and only the hacker's job harder, as it is really hard to stop them. Thank you very much again, and please don't forget, if you tweet about the session and tagging also Future of Cybersecurity PSG News Group and myself, you can win one of my books, ebooks, free, based on your choice from the back. Thank you very much for listening. It was a pleasure to present, and I am looking forward to see you next time. Bye-bye.